The rise and fall of Chiara Ferragni and the Ferragnez explained by an Italian in English. I made a video last week kind of talking about the interview that Fedez recently did and giving you guys a breakdown. And then I realized that there isn't that much information about her and everything that's been going down in English. Sometimes I forget that she has such a huge non-Italian speaking audience. So while initially I was like, oh, we'll just make a little part 2 follow up. Then after I realized all this, I was like, no. Y'all, we need to do a deep dive. So I have my suit out, I have my start clips out, I have all my information. I wrote it all down and I became way bigger of a thing than I was thinking. But I am glad to be of service to everyone, to give you some clarity and kind of give you the tea on all of this. So I was born and raised in Milan. I don't have an accent because I'm bilingual because my mom is American. I actually went to the same school that Chiara's kids now go to, which is so bizarre. Like, what a coincidence, but also Milan is tiny, so maybe not that crazy. Anyway, I now live in New York and I love to keep up with Italian drama, guys. So I have taken it upon myself to be the cultural translator of the tea. I do want to say though, even though the title of this series is kind of like dramatic, I don't intend this to be me celebrating Chiara's downfall. Like, I'm not a hater. Because she has so many non-English speaking fans and people who love her, I think it only makes sense for you guys to also just be looped into everything. So I'm just gonna take you through like kind of the facts, give you an overview of the situation just so you can get it more, you know? So yeah, I'm not a supporter, I'm not a hater, I'm just interested in what's going on and very interested to talk about it with anyone who will listen. So here we are. Part 1 of the series is going to be called The Beginnings. So like sit down, if you're eating something, if you're having a meal, this is the time to watch it. This is going to be kind of long. I already know. So Chiara Ferragni was born on May 7th, 1987 in Cremona, Italy. She has 2 other sisters, Valentina and Francesca. She has a mom whose name is Marina, who's a writer in Italy, and her dad is a dentist. So she definitely comes from like a wealthier family or environment. Cremona is kind of more suburby than like say Milan. Just to paint the picture, she definitely comes from like a nice family, even though her parents did get divorced. I think she's mentioned a lot over the years that it was a very like amicable divorce and they used to hang out even like with the new partners of their parents. She definitely had a good childhood, a good family behind her, and the opportunity therefore to pursue what she wanted to do and the freedom to do that. In October 2009, she started her blog, The Blonde Salad. A lot of people who saw my original video have been following her since then, which I think is so cool. So that was 700 years ago, I guess. And she started it with her then boyfriend, Riccardo Pozzoli. Now, the whole like lore behind this whole thing and her boyfriend is that a lot of people like to say, oh, Riccardo made Chiara Ferragni. She's addressed this a couple times and it seems that, yeah, a lot of people like to think that he's the one who kind of invented her like in a lab and is the reason for her fame. Now, I don't know. Like, I personally think it was probably half and half. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think it's that crazy on his side. I don't think it's that. Like, I'm sure just together they came up with a good idea. And then she took it and ran with it for like the next however many years. So yeah, they ended up breaking up. I don't really know why, but yeah. On the other hand, we have Fedez, who was born October 15th, 1989. And he grew up in a province of Milan called, it's definitely a lesser well-off suburb compared to Cremona or compared to Milan even. It's definitely a harder, more normal life. I think Fedez has frequently talked about how his parents just like had really normal jobs. So he definitely had a very different upbringing. He often talks about how he was hanging out maybe with not the best of people. Like, it was definitely very different. Also, he was an only child. Definitely very different backgrounds growing up, which I think ultimately ended up kind of bringing them together, but also then kind of driving them apart. But also, I don't know these people. I'm just speculating. Interestingly enough, I think people don't realize that Fedez was actually more famous in Italy, mainstream famous compared to Chiara for a while. First of all, he's a man. Also, he was a judge on the Italian X Factor. And he started doing that when he was only 23. I'm 25 now. I can't even imagine like having that responsibility, like just being that famous at 23 that you're a judge on the Italian X Factor. Like, that's crazy. Anyway, I also do think that this was linked to the fact that a lot of people in Italy didn't think that Chiara Ferragni should be taken seriously because of the job that she was doing. We all know that being an influencer, being a blogger, being a YouTuber, whatever, those jobs back then, and still now, honestly, but especially back then, and especially in a country like Italy, which is very traditional and kind of by the books and everything is always the same and new stuff is kind of scary. She was never really taken seriously in that regard, so he was definitely way more famous in Italy back then. So Italian culture is definitely very interesting, and it plays, I think, a big role in the entirety of this story, which is why it might be difficult to grasp if maybe you're hearing it just from an American or like someone who, you know, isn't fluent in the culture in a way. Not to say that I am like incredibly qualified or a journalist, guys. I'm literally just a girly. Okay? But I think who better to bring you the tea than just a girly? Just an Italian girly, okay? Like, I think it's good. I think it's good. She was never really taken seriously, even though like her numbers started growing a lot and very fast. And she was one of the first people in the internet space in Italy to pop up. Also, obviously, she's literally beautiful and skinny and white and has blonde eyes and blonde eyes and has blue eyes and blonde hair and comes from a wealthy family. You know, like, let's just like piece it all together. And she could speak English, which is honestly something that a lot of Italian influencers can't do. English isn't taught well in schools in Italy. Not a lot of people speak it. Obviously now it's way different, but at the time she had that going for her. She really did. And she was able to kind of like merge the gap, especially with brands. Fashion Week is an international thing. So the fact that she could even like speak the languages was really good. So she definitely came up at the right time. Fast forward to 2016, Fedez releases a song in which he directly mentions Chiara and kind of makes fun of her. And the lyric in his song is Il cane di Chiara Ferragni al papillon di Vuitton, which literally translates to Chiara Ferragni's dog has a Louis Vuitton bow tie. So just basically hinting at how privileged she is and she's rich and like even her dog has something crazy, right? So it was kind of a diss, but like in a cute way. And this is actually what made them meet up and like start talking. And they started dating. When I tell you, it was huge when they started dating in Italy because they were the most random people, honestly, to get together. But at the same time, it did make sense, but also it didn't because Fedez was kind of like giving bad boy energy, like tattoos. Like he's always been very outspoken regarding like politics and kind of like fighting with people and saying, I fight with people and fuck the system. Whereas Chiara has definitely not been like that. She's like perfect, pretty, skinny girl. She was living in LA. She was like going to Coachella. She didn't have that many controversies. Definitely two very different worlds. So it was huge. It was very, very big when they started dating. And yeah, very random. Because you would think that Fedez maybe wouldn't be into someone like that and that she wouldn't be into someone like him. But I guess opposites attract. And then slowly but surely it started making more and more sense to everyone. They kind of united to completely different worlds, two huge worlds, like the music industry and the like upcoming influencer blogger industry, the two biggest worlds. And they were at the top of these two worlds, mainstream wise. It was giving royalty. Anyway, so then they start dating, then they get pregnant. And they were really cute. I remember it being really cute and sweet and kind of like, aw, okay, these two people who seemingly came from different worlds, he started sharing a very soft side to himself. I think it was cute. And from the get-go, they started both sharing a lot of their love story, a lot about their pregnancy. And I think her being so open on social media affected him in a way where he started being very open and keeping everyone in the loop on social media too. And again, it was when social media was just starting to like really pop off. 2015, 2016, that was peak like Instagram. Instagram stories had just become a thing, you know what I mean? It was the beginning of the end. Just kidding. Anyway, so at a certain point, they decided to move to LA to have Leo. I think it was like for passport reasons. And also because Chiara had a house there, like prior to meeting Fedez, it was a way for them to also have more privacy because in Italy, it was very chaotic for them. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I think. Again, they were sharing a lot. They were sharing how she had a problem with her pregnancy towards the end. And so she had to be on bed rest for like a month, I think. And obviously that was really hard. I remember being like, oh. And then when Leo was born, I remember Fedez shared this. He shared that like Leo had like some sort of water in his ear or something. How am I remembering these details? I don't know. But like I've been in it, guys. I've been following along, okay? Again, as if I'm not even like actually a fan. I'm just really interested in this stuff and just like social media things in general. So yeah. So I remember he was sharing that Leo had some sort of water in his ear or whatever, and he had to undergo an operation as like a newborn, basically. They had to put a little tube in his ear or something. Anyway, so they really like were in it. They were sharing the ins and outs of it. They basically just kind of became a family channel. You know, at the end of the day, I guess, yeah, they weren't making vlogs like the Ace family, but really every day you knew you could count on a bunch of their stories, kind of like giving you updates on their day, on Leo, on what they were doing, on the kind of ins and outs of their family dynamics. And obviously this very much benefited them because they slowly started becoming kind of a brand in themselves, so much so that the name Ferragnez was coined, which is a combination of Ferragni and Fedez. And so their name was kind of like the Ferragnez. They're a thing, they're a brand. When they got married in 2018, the whole wedding was branded Ferragnez. Like everything was just Ferragnez, Ferragnez, Ferragnez. Like that was like the thing. They became a power couple. But I will say, despite all of this, I do think like she still wasn't being taken seriously enough in Italy compared to maybe the rest of the world. Like she was hanging out with like Dua Lipa, but there's always been this thing in Italy towards Chiara where it's like, why is she even famous? She doesn't deserve what she's achieved. I don't know, something just against her. I'm sure the fact that she's a woman, literally, Italy is a sexist country, period. I will not fight anyone on that because that's just a fact. So obviously that had something to do with it. And that then leads into why this whole Pandoro Balocco thing was such a huge blow. Because guys, people have been waiting for her downfall. People have been waiting for her to make a mistake, okay? So this traces back to years ago. I think people, yeah, just weren't understanding what her job was. It was kind of honestly giving the Kardashians or like the D'Amelios, where they kind of just became famous and you're like, why? And the Italian general public is very different to the American general public. And I think if in America, the general public is already a little more accepting of these figures, but they're still kind of annoyed at them and don't like them, Italy is like 10 times worse. I think the general public is like even less accepting of these kinds of public figures. People weren't really sure why she was famous or why she had these insane numbers. Because at the end of the day, guys, she had crazy numbers and she was doing crazy things, but it was like, huh? Her brand? Is it because of her brand? It kind of felt like maybe her brand and like the stuff that she was selling kind of came as an afterthought. Because also, I will say a discrepancy that I noticed in her brand versus her audience is that her Chiara Ferragni brand is expensive. She's selling stuff that is expensive. Like normal people wouldn't be able to afford that, right? But at the same time, her audience is normal people, just normal Italian girls. And so I've always been really confused about that. I still don't really have an explanation for that. It seemed like she, at least to me, she kind of just like was like, yeah, I should make a brand too. It didn't feel like anything that was really truly authentic to her because she has, you know, a makeup line, sunglasses, bags, shoes, clothes, blah, 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 blah. And it, because yeah, she did stuff with the fashion industry. But at the same time, I will say it never felt like she had any crazy new pioneer take on fashion. It wasn't like she had a vision or like something that was like, oh my God, she's a genius. She has come to change the industry. So I also think that's why it was also kind of puzzling as to why she became so huge. Again, I'm just telling you what different parts of Italy saw and think, okay? I'm gonna keep using this disclaimer. It is kind of interesting just how she blew up and how she became such a reference point for all these people in the beauty industry when I don't think that she had that big of an identity. I don't think she had like a specific style. She was just skinny and pretty and tall. She never had really something sort of like, and she didn't really need it. Ooh. Oh no, my life.
Hey, wreck me just chiming in to say that I know there's a double standard for women and how they have to do 10 times more than a man to justify their fame. And there's so many men that literally are giving nothing and are even more famous than her. I don't want to add to that, but what I am trying to say is that it didn't feel like she was like really cool or had much to offer in the fashion sense because her title was like a fashion blogger, you know, because she started off like that. I think over time, her thing became way more about her family and very much about her kids and that stuff, and way less about fashion. So yeah, because she was just kind of wearing like very normal clothes that were just expensive. So the fashion part of everything very much got lost throughout the years, especially when she was reaching peak fame. But yet she was known as the fashion guru. That's where I'm saying where it's like there's some sort of disconnect between that stuff. Okay? Okay.
Charged my light, took off my jacket. Here I am. What I was saying was she didn't really need something crazy innovative or whatever, or special or specific to get where she got. She just kept doing her thing. But I will say, yeah, a point of confusion for me was that she never really had a product or a take or a thing. You know what I mean? It was just like a lot of things put together. And especially her brand, I was always so confused about who is buying this brand. Genuinely, I have no idea. Like, no idea. I think maybe younger girls who wanted something for Christmas, maybe? I don't know. I don't know how her brand was doing well enough that people were buying things. I don't know. But I'm sure that real Chiara Ferragni stands, or people who've been following her since her blonde salad days, know way more about this. And I'm sure you guys could, share more about what it is that made her stand out so much in the beauty or fashion world. But just from like an objective, like kind of semi-distant point of view, I was always really confused about what's different about this brand. Why should people buy it other than it being a brand with her name on it and her signature eye thing? Now, she did end up doing a lot of collaborations down the line, which I'll get into, made way more sense for her audience, I think. Like she did a back to school line, and there were like pencil cases with her name, and it was more affordable. And I feel like that made more sense maybe for who her audience is. That same level of discrepancy between the lifestyle and what she was offering and her audience was also shown in her lifestyle, in the kind of life that she was showing and showcasing on the internet. Her and Fedez definitely like lived a very luxurious, and still live a very luxurious life. They moved into this rooftop apartment in like the newest building in Milan at the time, and they were always very much like showcasing it. They would get offered to go on vacation to places and not have to pay for it, and they would get crazy collaborations and partnerships and scent free things, obviously, and they were showcasing it. But I think, again, thing that's very important to remember here is that the Italian culture, Italian market, the Italian population is very different to the American one. Very much less consumeristic. I'm just like talking about the baseline here. Like overall, I'm generalizing, okay? Very much less into that kind of luxury lifestyle, and almost in a way mad that people have it, like almost annoyed that someone would showcase that. So I think that kind of frustration started also to build over the years, and that's why also people were like annoyed, I guess, that she was living this crazy life, which is really just not attainable for any normal Italian. But there is less of a fascination with that kind of lifestyle in Italy than there is in America. I think for the general overall generalized population. I personally honestly found it intriguing to kind of like live through them in a weird way and just see what they could have, because again, in Italy, this whole thing is very new. There really isn't anyone that was that public about being that wealthy and like doing their thing in the public eye in a very attainable, like parasocial way ever, right? So I feel like in America, it's very different. We've had reality shows that's like way more of a thing. In Italy, they were really kind of the first of their kind to really go all in that sense. The frustration with them also was linked to the fact that they did live such a privileged lifestyle. I'm not saying that Italy is like a terribly poor country and like people, but like the overall Italy is very much more middle class than Milan. Like Milan in itself is not really Italy, not representative of Italy, and I recognize that, and I'm from there, Real Italy is very different. So yeah, and I do think that a lot of Chiara's fans were from quote unquote real Italy, I think. I'm not sure about this. Anyway, they then got married in 2018. By the way, they got married on my birthday, which like, I don't know why that kind of weirds me out, because I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I guess we have that also in common. The wedding was huge, guys. It was like the equivalent of the UK royal wedding, but Italian version. I remember people knew, everyone knew. It was a thing. And again, it was super branded, Ferragnez. It was intense. Okay. we're getting to the end of this video. So this is 2018, 2019, their like fame continued to soar, especially as a couple. It got solidified. They're very one as a couple. They definitely got into, because of Fedez, a lot of like political things, or like just like Instagram fights where he would hop out a story and kind of like be like blah blah blah. But again, she always lived a very like perfect, everything is great, I'm pretty, and I have a really, really, really cute kid life. And I have my family, and kind of just like trying to create that bubble and that entity, which was very like branded in a way, but still very much was able to keep a sense of reality. I think that's also what's very important. Like, despite them being so like living a life that like so many people can't ever imagine living, they definitely were constantly showcasing the ins and outs of their life, showcasing everything that had to do with their son, Leo. We saw that child literally grow up every day, okay? We saw their little fights between Chiara and Fedez. We were then introduced to like kind of the extended family and how they kind of all became one thing, and they would all go on trips together. Both of Fedez's parents and Chiara's like entire extended family, and like her parents, and the son that the dad had with another woman, like it became a huge just like thing. So much so that her sister, Valentina, became an influencer and like started following down a similar path.
Hey, wrecked me popping in again to say that all three sisters had a significant other and they were always on vacation together. So it was Chiara, Fede, Valentina e Luca, and Francesca and Ricky. Valentina and Luca had been together for literally 10 years, and then they broke up like 2 years ago, and then they both immediately found like different partners so fast. It was crazy. And then Francesca and Riccardo have been together for also 700,000 years, and now they have a kid, and he's really cute, and they're like kind of just like the normal ones. Sorry, that might sound weird, but like just she's a dentist. I don't know what he does, but they seemed very like just like normal.
And they would always go on these like crazy vacations with like 100 friends. Like, Chiara was always the one with like so many friends. She always had her like staple friend that she brought with her throughout the years, like Veronica Ferraro, a friend of Chiara's since like 2009 or something like that. Filippo Fiora, something like that. Fabio Maria D'Amato, who was her manager, who, guys, that, I cannot wait to talk about that, because the whole Pandoro thing and him, ooh, it seemed like she had a huge group of people surrounding her who were loyal, who they did everything together with, where Fedez was maybe a little more reserved and didn't always want to do things. She always wanted to go out. He was kind of more of a homebody, but it worked. There was like a camaraderie between them that was tangible and that was apparent and came across through a screen. So that made people feel very connected to them. Even if they didn't really like him, like I think people just still watched them because they were curious to know what is going on. What are these people doing? And they definitely like milked that shit because they were on their phone sharing every single little detail. Ever. So people kind of got used to that. Kind of got used to being able to invade their privacy, you know? Like, yeah, that's what you do. That's what they've done. That's what they've built their career on. This mutually beneficial relationship and like way of doing things has like really helped them grow their businesses. We've gotten to the end, like to 2019 here. Part 2 is gonna be about the pandemic, because that was a whole thing, and it was kind of like the beginning of things started to just like kind of, it was the last part of the good part of the beginning of the end. I think that's when they started flying maybe too close to the sun in a way, started having way too much power, and then yeah, but I'll continue that in part 2. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of details. Again, I'm just a girly, just following along the tea. I'm not like a stan or anything, so I'm sure I'm missing a lot of things. But yeah, please try to keep the comments as nice or just like kind of neutral as possible. This is not intended at all to be a space to like, hate on them. No, these are just the facts, honey. Like, this is just what's going on. And just like, take it easy. Take it easy. These are kind of my opinions in a way, kind of what I've gathered and my truth. But yeah, I do recognize that it's biased, that I don't have all the information. And yeah, this is more kind of a tea spilling session, an overview. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in part 2. We have so much to get through, guys. This is gonna be good. I hope you had a good meal. Bye.